there, my lovely sunwalkers. Welcome back to the final episode of the first season for Listening to the Voices in Our Heads. My name is Jenna O'Malley, and I am your soul writer. Thank you, first and foremost, for sticking with me this entire season. It's been a blast. I am also quite enthusiastic to announce a couple of things before I tell you about who we're with today. I am ending out 3 podcast series this week. We've already had the ending to this series with this episode, but at the same time, you're going to be getting the final episode of Sitting Down with Soul Writer for the first season. It'll end with a battle writing demo. I'm on take 13. I kid you not. At the same time, I am also going to be putting up the final episode of Fiction in 5 for the summer 2021 season. So thank everybody for watching along. I'm also going to be doing my last in-person signing for the foreseeable future over at the Western Maryland Craft Beverage Festival at Hoffman Park in Frostburg, Maryland. If you remember, I was up there at the same location for a different festival earlier this summer. I was asked to go ahead and participate. This one does benefit the Allegheny County, Maryland Animal Shelter, which is a non-kill nonprofit. So if you would like to come and hang out with me, please do so. I will be taking orders for signed copies of Book 2 to either mail or deliver in person. Unfortunately, that shipment of books for Book 2 is not going to get here until after Labor Day weekend. So if you want to stop by and chat with me, you're more than welcome to do so. This coming Tuesday, September the 6th, is the launch day for Book 2 of Bound by Oath and Heart for the Arsinoe Forest Alliance. It is a direct sequel. It picks up a couple of months after Book 1 ends. So with that being the case, I'm very, very, very happy to announce the cover artist for Book 2, Bound by Oath and Heart, Jeremy Green, aka Sontrowa Arts, is joining us today for our episode of Listening to the Voices in Our Heads. We're going to be talking about a little bit of everything, not just a little bit of how we met one another, his background in art included, and also things for authors and anyone looking for an art commission to consider when they're talking to an artist, whether it be for the first time or for just the first time about a new project, if you understand my meaning. So thank you once again for joining for us this episode, and let's make it a grand finale. So let's rock it. Welcome back, my lovely sunwalkers, to the final episode of the first season of Listening to the Voices in Our Heads. And I've got a really good voice in my head over here. Who's this?
Hi, my name is Jeremy Green, and otherwise known as Sontrowa in most locations.
Well, they all have heard your name enough. They better know you a little bit around here. Tell us more about yourself, hon.
I am a freelance graphic artist and illustrator. By day, I work in retail hell. By night, and most weekends, I'm I'm working on either art for myself or commissions.
And he doesn't only just work for me, even though it sounds like it sometimes, guys. You've done a lot of work for our friend Cortez recently, too, I've heard.
Yeah, if anyone has seen his channel, he's got a Gorgon head avatar that I did the art for, and as well as his Twitch emotes.
Yeah, I saw those getting showed off this past Saturday. They're pretty cool. So
they're fun to do.
Yeah, and he's pretty talented. He just proved, he can do what? That small all the way up to a book cover and bigger, probably, right?
Little things like that are they're complicated. You can't just slap an image in there and say, yeah, I did it. No, it's gotta be visible. But yeah, from the teeny tiny all the way to high resolution, make it a poster.
Because that's basically what you did for book 2's cover. I'm sorry, book one's cover is still jealous, dude. Sorry, it still is. Just to clarify, when did you start doing art, and are you traditionally trained? Like, did you go to school for it, or is it just something you picked up over the years?
So starting art, there's not really a good starting point for that. It's it started off as drawing board in class, and kept going on from there. Um, so I'm, for the most part, self-taught. I have an associate's degree with a leaning in arts. I took those are my extra classes that I took to
Right.
to fill out those credits, which it didn't they didn't teach me anything I didn't already know, but it helps a lot with confidence.
Right. And you had somebody who knew what they were doing, being like, if you maybe, did they sometimes suggest, like, if you held the pen this angle instead? Little tips and tricks, I guess, kind of is where I'm going.
Well, it gets you to try out different mediums, and it tells you the basics. In a regular composition of a person, they're regularly 7 heads tall, that sort of thing. And then little exercises like take your pen and instead of drawing, like this, hold it at the very end and just do some freehand like that, and it gets you to loosen up and things like that.
It kind of untrains you from writing hand only. A poor way to describe it, but
It gets you to loosen up from, yeah, from your regular way of doing it, and gets you to see new angles like that. To draw an image upside down, it gets you to break up what you already know about a thing and actually put the lines that you see.
I'm sorry. My glasses should turn into like the glasses from the Nerd and Sailor Moon right now. I don't understand what he's saying. I know get drawing, but from a reading writing upside down, it's pretty much the same situation. Retrain your muscles slightly to do something you already know how to do. So we do have a swath of questions for you today, good sir, and a couple of them are actually going to come from a few writing discords I belong to. So, first and foremost, from Fantasy Writers Forever's Discord, what are the types of information you prefer to receive as part of your commission? And I'm not just talking with authors here, because again, he's worked with someone who's becoming a VTuber, you've done character sketches, a plenty from what I've seen of people in the Discord we hang out with. So, what's kind of the base starting point for you on that?
Yeah, most recently I did a Guardians of the Galaxy image thing for a gentleman, and uh, so when asking for a commission, it's you start with the basics. What is the subject? What do you want them doing? How big do you want the image? Because that really matters. If you want to turn it into, again, like a poster or something, I need to know to do it at a really high resolution. I'm probably going to do that anyway because I want to put in detail or move around the size, add in things later, use different brushes. But it helps to know, hey, I need that at this resolution because it needs to be blown up.
And
Um,
that's something I remember we talked about early on. One of the first questions you asked me was, "What resolution are we shooting for?" So thank you for putting that at the forefront.
right, like the aspect ratio for the book. They don't necessarily all come in a standard size. There is a standard paperback aspect, but not everyone goes for that.
Correct. What are some
Um,
other things that go on for you then?
so, what kind of tone you're going for the image? I can do cartoony, I can do semi-realistic, uh, that sort of thing in my wheelhouse. But if I'm over here giving you a cartoon person and you wanted, someone a bit more uh, that you can relate to more, it's not gonna quite mesh. I need to know. Simply saying, "Hey, I like your style. Do this," is not gonna work.
Right. And that's something that kind of threw a few of my readers off when book two came out because it was so different from book one's aesthetic. And I said, honestly, I like book two more. it was a matter of personal choice, and you stepped in last minute for me. So thank you very much on that. Do you have a standard way of gathering some of this info? Because there's way more you're going to end up asking other than just tone, style. For me, I remember one of the questions was, am I just doing their head versus am I doing full body?
Right, and that sort of stems from pricing. So, and I do it on a per hour basis, and I can sort of guesstimate based on detail and how big, how much of the body I'm doing.
Do you send a person a form, fill this out, get it back to me, or do you just prefer open conversation back and forth, or does it depend on the person?
Sometimes it depends on the person, but I mostly like more of a conversation, because then I feel like I get to know what you want rather than what you have an idea of at the time of filling out the form, because then I can add more questions and narrow in on what the person wants, because they may say I want this character,
Hmm.
and then I say, okay, well, what image of mine did you like that really inspired you to ask me to do this? Did you want it like that? Did you want it a different way? Is there just like an aspect of that picture that you liked that you were wanting to bring into this? I ran into that with Cortoz, where he saw this image of a goblin girl that I did, and he said, "I
Yes,
like
I
that.
remember
I want
that
you
one.
to draw this for me. Draw this new thing for me." I'm like, "What about this image did you like? Did you want all this in there?" No. Okay. He liked the style, but not any of the coloring that I did. Well, not that he didn't like it,
Right.
but that wasn't what he wanted in what he had for commission.
So
So
just clarify for our audience, I'm sorry. For him, it was more he was looking at the line dimensions and styles you use, not so much the color palette you used, for example.
right, the cartoony kind of squash face, big emotion,
Hmm.
but not the pastel sort of colors that I used for that, or the rough brushes, or something like that.
And
But
to clarify against that, his reminds me kind of like a 90s cartoon, like not quite Ninja Turtle color palette aesthetic, but I could see where that could be a logical um but I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
but other than that, I prefer more organic conversation, so I can really home in on what they want. A form, it feels a little more sterile. It could help get some of the basics out of the way, but you don't really you only get a base knowledge of what the person wants.
So good for gathering things like contact info, deadline data, um if they wanted to share links to reference material, that kind of thing.
Right, deadline, size. Deadline's an important one.
Yes.
Um, what kind for pricing? What, if they wanted to add anyone else, any other figures in there, because also price per figure.
And also price for armor and swords, just so you all know. That rapier was so worth it. Oh my god.
That got to take that into account. The very first large commission that I had was this lady wanted her husband's Final Fantasy 14 character, a portrait of him done.
Hmm.
Now, okay, that's fine. I can do. It was a Rodigan, big beefy dude. Okay, send me screenshots, that sort of thing. Oh, he's in um, really ornate armor
Price just
because
went up.
it's Final Fantasy 14. I didn't realize. I was like, oh, okay, that'll be fine. I had to ask for extra at the end of it because it took so long. Because if you've never seen or played Final Fantasy 14, it's very sort of think Victorian style, uh, ornateness. You know, they take a sewing
Mm,
machine and they add like flowers and a bird onto the side of it, and then you add a steampunk aesthetic onto that, and then blow it out with more really organic shapes and
yes.
Sharpie bits. And oh god, it's a mess. What even is this thing I'm looking at? I guess that's a knee pad. Well, I'm gonna have to dig deeper.
Right. And because things like that get so fantastical, this just as a sidebar question, does that lengthen the number of times you have to go back and ask them questions sometimes?
It can, because if I say, look, this is going to take me this long to get a full figure, I don't want to jump the price up on you a whole lot. Do you want to just do a half body, and then I can, do that, give that a lot more focus, or do you want to go for it all?
It
So
depends
yeah, I'll
on
need to get back with them.
and it depends on not only deadlines then, but how much they're willing to go broke or go home for their commission as well.
Right, and
And
including all of something could change the whole color palette.
I didn't do that to you, did I?
No.
I was going to say if I did, I'm so sorry.
No, we already had from the get-go that I was doing waist up.
Right.
So I knew what I was doing from there.
And yeah, I promise. I promise. No super ornate armor because it didn't exist in our world. Crazy
It was
tattoos. We'll talk.
there was an ornate armor. It was just not used. It was for show.
Oh yeah, was that Harumi or was that Rochelle?
Well, Rochelle had all the major armor. I'm thinking like I've been to museums
Oh,
in the UK that there was like horse armor, not just the DLC for Skyrim, like actual horse armor.
I wasn't talking
Pull the
animals.
tail out through the back and ornate armor. Well, I mean, it's for people.
Right.
There's equally stuff for people too, but oh god,
Well,
ornate.
I'm thinking like not you can't tell what culture it's from ornate like some video games, if that makes sense.
Right, where it's just sort of the artist went wild.
Yeah. And this artist knows how to restrain himself accordingly, by the way, just to let you know. Sort of a follow up question from that from Plot Mom Allegra Pescatori's Discord. How many revisions, tweaks, or visions do you go through? Either you initiated since we went there, or commission request person initiated before you're like, this isn't worth it, that person's psycho, this is taking too much time, I'm not making my money back, whatever the situation may be.
Well, I haven't run into that issue yet, thankfully. I'm sure it will at some point. That's just
RN Jesus, may you forever be kind.
right. But usually, if I ask for something, for reference or something like that, it's not because I need to change something. It's because I want to get an idea before I have to change something. On the other end, most folks that I've seen, they will allow 3 major edits and like some somewhat larger number of smaller edits. Like, I think those eyes need to be blue, or maybe could we tweak the pose a bit. But major ones, usually I think about 3. Like, hey, can we add another person in there?
Ooh,
That's a major edit.
yeah. has, has that happened to you yet? Because I think I recall a story about background being wrong, or it might be wrong, I might be remembering that incorrectly.
I did have to do some background shenanigans with the with the Final Fantasy character.
I wondered if that was the same story. Thank you for reminding me. So, for you do the characters that you did for me, even though I put them on a background or use them accordingly, however I need. Um, you did a transparent background. Is That's no extra cost, obviously, right?
Right. I mean that makes things easier to work with. You don't have to coordinate color or tone or temperature.
Right. It's Very good point. A lot of authors specifically forget that there's that many dimensions to a picture. It's not just the color. How hot or cold do you want it to look is something I didn't think about until you and I talked about book two's cover. Uh, you got a vampire on the cover, dude. It had to take place when it wasn't sunrise. It's kind of, I think, the note I gave myself to give you. But um, as far as pricing goes, you said you do by hour, and it the size of it affects that. On the general, what would you say you're pricing at this moment? Of course, everything's subject to change, my lovely, so don't quote him and get mad if it changes. About what are you doing now for your pricing?
Right now, I'm looking at about depending upon the intricacy of it, between like 15 and 20 an hour, uh, because it is a hobby. It's taking up my free time.
Right.
I do work full time at home, so and
Same here.
it pays. Not everyone wants digital. I do also do traditional art, which I gotta rebuy all those equipment that I've had to use up to do it.
Mhm.
Watercolors, acrylics, that sort of thing.
Right.
Um, and now I'm an official book author,
Book cover artist.
book cover artist. So things go up from there.
Yep. And I will admit, we agreed on an original price, and I told my husband early on, I think I need to save up extra just in case, because even the sketch you sent me that you started from, your basis, I'm like, this is going to be totally worth every single penny I spend. So let me give my lovelies a little bit of a clarification, because in author world, we have a couple of options. One, you can make your own in something like Canva with stock photos and it'll look okay. Um, Two, kind of what I did for book one, you get an image modified, or I had a partial image made and then chunk it into whatever format cover creator you're doing. Or you go the route I did with book two. Here's the dimensions, just do it for me from scratch completely. And everyone who has seen them side by side says, I can't wait to see book one match in style just to get a comparison. And I'm not comparing artists. That's not it, because they're two completely different styles. But I like the way, one, I liked your ability to meet deadlines better. I will say that. He's really good at meeting deadlines and asks plenty far in advance if he needs more time or money. He's good at both and worth every cent and every minute. But at the same time, what I appreciated was that you were realistic through the whole situation with it too. Knowing I had my deadline, you had your, full-time job and so on. But I'm going to tell you lovelies, put your money where your mouth is. If you want something that looks like somebody else's book cover, you're going to pay $50. If you want something original, talk to a master and get them to do it right. It is worth it. I will admit that high res image came in handy, by the way. It printed really well to a fabric banner.
I was
So
gonna say, I think that background looks kind of familiar.
I bought this after you made the book cover.
I was gonna say, I'm like, that's not me, but I'm like, it fits right in with what.
I bought this for book two's launch based on the cover you made. Oh, I'm throwing you a curveball for the color palette for book three, by the way. Heads up, it's based on nail art. Anyway, it's Sam's fault, okay? Getting back on track here, since I've taken us rambly city way off track. Um, what is the benefit of doing art around another job? Or since we both work elsewhere full time and then do our passions as not.
Not. I would prefer to be able to do the art more often, obviously.
But
But it does give me more of a mindset that I need to focus. I don't have all the time in the world to get it done. So, it helps get into that. It is a work mindset. I'm doing this for someone else. It's, put myself on the clock. Whereas if I had more less structure to it, then that would be more of an issue.
so there's a level of self-discipline is what he's hinting at, my lovelies.
Right, and having another job, you either have the self-discipline or you run late.
Either or on both sides, the project or the job, I assume, right? Right. So next question we have on our hands. What are the constraints or the positives of working digitally or virtually with your commissioners?
Constraints of working digitally. It's highly editable, which is both good and bad, because then, like, they keep pecking for edits. Sometimes I can come in with, well, it's just an easy change, right? Which is not quite the case. I can change things easy, but not always that often, because there's always layers set up. Digital, it makes things easier for me. I can sit and do it on the couch with my dog on my lap and make him happy, or I can go back to my computer to transfer everything over and then do it here. So in that, it helps quite a bit. So digital, I can also, or traditional, I can do that most anywhere, so long as it's, starting with a pencil sketch.
True. And also for you, distance would then play into with traditional because, again, one of the questions you asked, I remember you asking me is, am I printing this and mailing it to you or not? Because shipping would then be added into the cost.
Right, and if it was like a watercolor or something, I've got to figure out a way to mail it without making sure it doesn't get bent, ripped.
And
so in this, I can make sure to send you a full resolution PSD with all the layers and whatnot, just in case you need to take bits from it. I'll also send you the PNG that is smaller in size, but not likely to change. You can't change it very easily. But send you all those bits, and you're good. And that's something I've had to sort of work out along the way. Using Google Drive, file sharing, folder sharing, making sure this is up for a while,
and just kind of
trying to be as professional as possible with it.
Right, and just nailing that routine. Your virtual workspace, I guess, is a better way to say it than routine. Also, from the I thought I had to sneeze. Sorry. So, as far as kind of feeding off of that perfectly, then, what are some tips you could give your fellow artists or just creative minds in general when they're starting out, even if it's doing commissions or even if they're just, say, posting on Devi or any other place they prefer to
go? For most people, you're just work with, go with your art. People came to you for a reason. So don't doubt yourself in that. Whatever they saw they liked about you. So don't worry about changing yourself, but do try and work with what they want. Like this last Taserface thing I had, the guy liked what I did because I drew this Gator Loki and had this Disney-esque style, and he liked that. Maybe, but he also wanted me to sort of lean towards this other more comic style art. Fine. If you're just getting started working commissions with folks, I recommend checking in with them often. Because you don't want people to think that you've ghosted them, and they'll be more likely to communicate those last-minute edits a lot sooner. Like with you, I've sent the sketch. I sent a better version of the sketch. probably that evening. And then,
Yeah.
hey, here's the line art. How do you like that? That look good? All right, I'm throwing in some colors. Here's the base colors. How do those look for you? If I come in and talk to you more often, you may not be so. You'll let me know if you need something changed before it becomes a hard thing to do.
This is true. So you did really well to kind of checkpoint with me at not every step, but every major step um, of the way, and that's one thing I didn't experience previously. So thank you. That communication really, really matters more. Are
Right.
good.
Right. And again, like you said, you shouldn't do it at every step. I mean, take confidence in your work. They again came to you for a reason. Uh, let your pencil fly. But at major points, when they talked about a second person, maybe before you completely get that body structure solid in there, see if they like him in that pose.
And I think I think you mentioned to me that's one of the reasons why you like to start with all the way down to a bare bones quote, not basic sketch, but going back that far as opposed to straight to digital, right?
Right. Not everyone does it, but I personally start with a traditional graphite on paper sketch, and then I'll take a picture of it or scan it in, and then go back over it digitally to finish it.
Hmm. And as far as where did you first start posting? Facebook? I don't think I think your Facebook is more active than your Instagram. I didn't know if you had a deviant art or anything like that.
How far back do you want to go on that?
Everyone on here knows I've been writing about Neftiri since 2003. So shoot for the
I think
moon.
okay. The very first place I started posting on is Elfwood.
Wow.
Yeah. In order to find any of the
Wow.
stuff I still had on there, I had to go into the Wayback Machine on and try and find the right dates that still had it in the file still on there.
It doesn't even exist
It is sort
anymore?
of
Ish. Okay. Ish.
itish, yeah. I mean, it's gone to like 1,000 remakes and server changes and
Like fanfiction.net.
right.
I wish that place would die. I wish that place would die. I used to write for them when I was like 15. I wish that place would die.
No one needs to see that.
No one needs to see that. No,
But
Neftiri wasn't ever posted there, just so you guys know.
I have some older works on DeviantArt. I don't post there so much anymore. I'll throw something in there now and then.
Mm-hmm.
But most of my stuff lately is either is on my Instagram, Sontrowa Arts, all one word,
2 A's,
and then
not one.
Sontrowa Arts.
Don't keep making my mistake and only typing 1A.
And then I'll usually use that to also at the same time post to my Facebook page.
Are you using the fun calendar feature yet in Facebook?
No, I've not played with their toys yet at all. I know that the good time to post is a little after 11. That's when most people are looking, and then go from there.
I schedule mine a day ahead of time now. So if you
I
want me to
really
walk
ought
you
to do
through it
that.
one day, I know for you it's a little different. For you it's a little different, I'm sure. But if you had questions, I'm getting okay with it.
And a lot of art for advertising has to be, unless people are coming back for a very specific thing for you. They're like, oh, hey, Lois over here, she's got some very great portraits that she does a lot. My stuff is a little all over the place, whatever I feel like doing at the time for the most part. It tends to have to be, in order to gain traction, be topical.
That's a good point. Or
So, hey, there was this new Pokemon Direct. Well, I have about 6 hours to draw one up before it gets lost in an avalanche of the same thing.
And because we're adults with lives, that's just not possible all the time.
Right.
Understood for sure. I'm kind of going through similar with the new Kindle Vella that just came out. You can release your books in chapter by chapter format like you might on Wattpad or other places like that. And it's the same thing. Something
Gotta
happened in the
stay on top
world.
of it.
It's in everybody's chapter. Yep. So
Mm-hmm.
catch 22, catch 22. For our next question, what are some tips on just starting out in freelance? Because that's kind of what you're doing ish. What are some tips as far as building like your clientele would go?
Make your internet presence. Like again, my Instagram. It especially depends on what sort of your thing you're going for. Where your specialties lie. Like you're doing a lot of fan art, you want to frequent places where that fan art shows up. Preferably, you can post to place with a bunch of other artists, but artists generally aren't paying other artists to do stuff.
That's true.
Some of them do. I mean, I've got some art from other people, but sometimes if I want to see something, I can draw it myself. So you need to put it out where the general fans are. Like the Taserface thing I did. I posted Gator Loki in the Marvel subreddit, and what do you know? I got a message in my mail.
So that's how you got that. Interesting. Note to me.
A friend of mine, she does like Gaia Online. She does a lot. She'll do some fan art there and post in their forums and whatnot. So
know
your audience.
But also know the fandoms that feed that audience as
right.
well. And for you, just going to clarify, I know there's a history of anime, gaming, and so on. What came first?
Well, both really. I mean, I've been gaming for I started with the Atari because my dad went after they went out of style. He's like, "Oh, y'all are throwing Ataris away? Okay." So here I am, and Super Nintendo times, starting with Atari and
Coleco.
Yeah.
The old ColecoVision worked clear through, and my parents bought us the NES and said, "We're not buying you a super one.
You get the regular one. It's cheaper now."
Well, something that's common today, and this is tangenty, sorry for adding it in, but what my parents didn't understand was the games were not compatible from NES to Super NES.
That's still an issue.
It's still an issue.
Again, retail. So I also in middle school, anime heavy. That's when it really started to pile in here into the States and whatnot. I mean, it was here beforehand, but it really, really picked up when all the Cartoon Network and stuff were picking it up.
Thank you, Toonami.
Exactly. Hell, my moniker here, Sontrowa, that nonsense, that doesn't make any, doesn't mean anything.
He's only named after the best Gundam Wing pilot in all history. Rest in peace, Kirby Morrow. Good lord.
And it's a mixture of Son Goku and Trowa Barton.
Trowa.
Yeah,
I love Trowa.
I'm a giant dork.
I was going to say, let's look over the shoulder. I'm sorry, I don't have Vincent Valentine or Seto Kaiba behind me, or I'd be right there with you. So yeah, I'm that level of anime fangirl dork.
But hey, I mean, it works out. No one has that name on any game I sign up for or any email address, so
that's true.
No one can pronounce it.
I was going to say,
but hey,
the choice to go with Trowa versus Nenashi was a good one though, because at least that one's shorter.
Shorter, easy to say. I mean, everyone says Sun. It's more Son, but I'll take Sun. It's fine.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to get, away from anime with it, it sort of means the third son, which I am the third child in the son. So, hey, it works.
And speaking of which, his brother is one of the streamers over on Emerald Company Gaming. Who's older?
Me. I know you can't tell by looking, can you?
It's the facial hair. It's the facial hair.
It's,
So, things you will not, absolutely will not ever consider drawing.
the list is getting shorter.
Considering I'm not going to assume Frey and Lee will be your first same-sex couple to draw, but
No, so
that's
I
a
will
whole
say I'll keep off the table completely. Intricate robots, Gundams, things like that. Not my wheelhouse. Not super my interest. I mean, I've got, but it's just
it's not your
the
style.
super mechanical thing is not my Jimmy Jam.
Mm-hmm.
That said,
That's it.
even major Disney artists have a not safe for work account.
Mm-hmm.
So I've not gone there yet. Not since high school. But give it time.
Give it time. I mean, you got close. We could have a nip slip on the Lusty Strumpet, dude. Come on.
I mean, in the sketch, there wasn't a shirt. But anyway.
Anyway.
It's very porn pays. What can I say?
Enjoy, fanboys. Enjoy. So, nothing like BDSM over the top explicit, I assume.
No. That's. I mean, if you want some nude shots, fine. Artistic, hey, I mean that's what I did in college. Having the same paint, charcoal, draw the same naked dude, for 3 months straight.
Hey, in some cases, you get to be the random theater student who gets offered to make $50 to sit there and just do this for 2 hours. That's all I did one afternoon. It was worth it.
I actually explained to some people, they look at through my like reference folder or something like that. They're like, "You got a lot of naked people in here. Is this in a different folder?" I'm like, "No, it's for reference. It's tasteful."
Yeah.
But she's naked. Yes, but she's not.
Okay.
It's reference. Yeah.
Let me put this in fat chick body terms for people so they'll understand. What fits my body ain't gonna fit size 0, and he needs to be aware of that as an artist.
You really have to, if you're going to practice anatomy and whatnot, you can't always use just regular figures because things fold different, stretch different.
Clothing doesn't move the same way.
Right. So yeah, tying back into the what will you draw, technically those are already in there. You have to if you want to practice. But no mechs.
No mechs, I don't blame you.
No mechs.
As a former fan of things like Ronin and Gundam, I don't blame you.
They're really neat. I mean, you see a really good motorcycle put on paper, especially in movement, like Miyazaki film, and you're like, oh wow, but that's just, you got to get people who really like that.
Right. And that's a whole movement in a picture is a whole nother skill in and of itself too. It just doesn't deal with 3D effects, right?
Right. And just even implied movement. I mean, you can put a person down, and I mean, they're there. They may look happy, but they're incredibly stiff. You have to take into account, secondary action. If that person is, jumping off to the side, the hair's got to move over, the shirt's got to tug, if there's a skirt involved, it's got to fly off to the side.
So you're accounting for physics, basically.
Right, and again, drawing from life. That's why you also get these art references, because things move different. Not clothing, hair. It just all you have to take. You have to run your own little physics simulator in your head. Otherwise, it's just going to look weird.
And would you say that's if weirdness were to come into play, it's either from not just proportions, but that physics isn't playing right sometimes, I assume?
Right. Like again, like a person is moving and their clothes are just still fitting like normal. It
Ooh.
just doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a logical point. That's a very logical point. Um,
Or if like someone's running and their hair's not moving, they look like a doll, like they're made of plastic.
or how do I word this? Like 70s music video hair being blown away from their face bad, even sometimes?
Oh, the curls. Yeah,
Yes,
they just
yes.
yeah,
So
yeah. It just looks stiff,
it just looks flat is the word I think they use sometimes, right?
flat, plasticky. Yeah.
So if your artist comes back and you think it looks that way, lovelies, there's your terms. So you are a cosplayer. I'm letting the cat out of the bag on that if you didn't want everyone to know. I'm sorry.
Dun, dun.
But having done theater in the past myself and worked in costume and props, I know as a writer, that helps my brain a lot to think, kind of like how you were saying. They're going this way, what's their hair feeling like to them or looking like to them? Has cosplaying and making or wearing cosplay helped you figure some of that out too over time?
Yeah, it helps to help build a character because I know if I'm making this clothing to look like somebody, well, I got to get the undershirt, I got to get the the under jacket, the over jacket, the bags, this sort of thing, and then you take that into account when you're drawing as well. You can't if you just keep bare bones, sort of jacket on top shirt. Um, it might be a nice drawing, but it's not terribly interesting. It helps with again character building, accessories, accoutrement. Um, does if you're drawing this adventurer person, okay, yeah, they have their medieval shirt, their medieval pants, they got a cloak on. Are they going to the store? Or are they going? Are they going out on an adventure?
That's actually really good for you to know because if they're just running down to the tavern for dinner, they're not going to take everything.
Right. So like with my cosplay, like right now I've got an Anders one going from Dragon Age.
It looks
Uh,
good.
Thank you. I have my staff. I have two different bags on my belt. If I really wanted, I have some mana potions I could attach to the side.
It's taking those potions along depends on where you're going, right?
Right. So I apply this to drawing. Say I'm again an adventurer, I'll put the packs on their side, but also a dagger in their belt. Um, some again potions hanging from them, a necklace that maybe does something. Um, some rings if it fits their style. A backpack. Maybe they hurt themselves and some moon dressing. It
Those
helps to build character.
those are some really good finite details that authors don't always think of when they're doing the initial conversation either. So, I think I tried to do this for a few of the characters. Does getting the actual snippets of dialogue and things, or say if you are doing a character from a video game, their avatar, say a video clip of them with that character in action or whatever, does that help you at all?
Immensely. Um, yeah, like you sent me the quotes of the person of each person, so I got the personality. Because if I don't know what their personality is aside from their cute enough pink hair, I'll do my best and draw without that if I can't get that information from you, I'll usually ask, but any other person, they'll there's that character there. running or something, that's them, but it doesn't necessarily say anything about them.
True.
So, like the quotes you sent me, I know this person is a bit more coy, so I can put that in there. Or, you know, they're a bit more the adventure type, so a bit more dashing a look about them. Since Rochelle, she's got that smirk and the down the sword look
Kick
on the
your
original.
ass.
Exactly. So something to show more about them aside from physical characteristics.
Right.
It will really help in again building the character and making a more custom piece.
And I have to say, for the ladies, you did a slam dunk job on getting their personalities, I guess you could say, really captured in there. And a brief conversation I remember us even having, because Rochelle, since you mentioned her, was a queen and traded out with the actual queen. Not going to say who, read book one, guys. But we talked about their differences in positions for the original sketches you did, because it made a difference. And I think the difference was Neftiri is regal, Rochelle is noble. And that slight class difference impacted their personas in the picture greatly. So
Difference of one stands up taller, one's got a more stern jaw.
it was it for you, pose wise might not have been different, but the aesthetic sent a different message. Anyway, now that we're starting to wind down for the evening, just have a couple of last questions for you. Are there any other artists or any, because we know so many people who do different things, that do you just want to give a shout out to then?
I don't have a whole lot of artists that I personally get to interact with. I'm still sort of building my network on that. But there are a number that I follow. I mentioned earlier Loish. She's got some great, she's a master of color and texture that I get some inspiration from. Lately, I've been looking at Scotty Young.
You watch out Scotty Young's work too.
He's just got so much cartoon, just exaggerated emotion and really energetic line work, and it's got this Calvin and Hobbes sort of. Obviously, he studied under that. You can tell just at a glance. Which great artists steal. That's how it works.
Great writers do the same, so don't. Nothing
Not
is
word for
original.
word, not line for line, but elements. You cherry pick from what you like, and that's your style.
You have your elements, we have our tropes. Same thing, different name.
Right. But I mean, those are a couple I follow, but there's, I mean, my Instagram, my follow list is just getting longer and longer and longer. I mean, if you're looking for tips and whatnot, there's a great YouTuber or person on YouTube. Their site is Drawing with Waffles.
Oh wow, so they're kind of not schooling you, but schooling you a little bit as they draw, or?
Well, right, it'll be like they'll show off their sketchbook, and then hey, this is how I experimented today, or I've noticed I've been able to improve doing this, or or it's just straight up tutorials. Here's how I do my line work. Make sure to do this. Keep this on this layer, that sort of thing.
So tips of the trade that you could find by letting someone else teach you instead of stumbling on them yourself.
Right. Which a little harder. You want to do that, especially before using a new program or something.
We are going to get ready and go ahead and wind down here. Do you have any questions for me, my dear?
When you go looking for an artist for to bring what you have to life, what do you look for?
That's a stellar question. I've gotten it a lot since book two's cover came out. Again, because aesthetically they are two different styles. When I originally first started looking at book one, for example, I combed through Instagram, DeviantArt, and just looked at the different styles because I hadn't in a long time. And just kind of what's out on the market, what's trendy, what's popular. And then I got looking at book covers in general. For book two, the big difference was one, I'd already fallen in love with your style seeing you post amongst our friend group. Two, I wanted something a little bit more not so romance novel looking and a little bit more fantastical. Book one looks more like a romance novel at a glance to me. Book two definitely has that fantasy romance aspect. So,
I can definitely see that.
so
I mean, it seems a bit like a couple steps away from the long hair in the wind and the lady with the long flowy gown falling apart. Um,
that's not teary. Well, she falls apart, but not like that. But yeah, no, that was a misstep in my opinion. New writer, haven't done it before. Also, it was a financing difference. My first cover was by somebody who doesn't have nearly the same level of experience as you do in the same style. So that also played a little bit of the role. And learning how to communicate with an artist was my biggest folly in the process. So, as far as choosing goes, for me, it goes to I need to know what's in the content of my book, its genres, and its subgenres. I had a misstep, but ended up luckily meeting somebody that I needed to do the style I really needed right around the same time that I was needing a new artist. So thank you for stepping in as quickly as you did.
it was a fun challenge. I'd never done a book cover before, and I want to say I did a pretty good job.
Hey, everyone who has seen book two. The only comment I have gotten is because of the lighting, I need to get better lighting when I take pictures of it in physical form in places because it falls flat. But that's not your fault. That's the printing fault. The printer's fault, not yours. Because I'm doing print on demand publishing right now because that's all I can afford. So that's not on you whatsoever. And that's a good, quick last side tip then for the lovelies. If you're doing Ingram Sparks, Amazon, those self publishing, indie publishing, they do print on demand. You want the high res so it looks good. And that's the other reason why book two's cover looked way better because it was a higher res image too. All right, then, my lovelies, we are going to go ahead and wind down here for our segment. And I wanted to thank you all once again for joining us. Thank you, Sontrowa, for being the end of our first season. I got some ECGers. Yay. So, where all can we find you again? We've mentioned it once or twice. Instagram would be,
Instagram would be Instagram's at Sontrowa Arts.
and I think
Um,
Facebook is just at Sontrowa.
uh, Facebook should also be is also Sontrowa Arts.
Okay. Okay. Because I wasn't
Um,
sure on that.
I've also got a T Public page.
Yeah.
If I can get some folks to take a look there, I'll be adding some more stuff here soon.
You're going to be adding one that you and I might be working on together in the future. You're keeping all the profit for that, not me.
I might be seeing if I can get a different more places to post at. But yeah, that one is also Sontrowa Arts.
Perfect. So if you're hunting down for a good artist or even just somebody to kind of poke their minds around of finding someone if he's, oh, pardon me, in the realm of your style, but not quite, then go ahead and look him up. I, again, feel very lucky to have worked with you, and I don't think the lovelies have heard this. I've asked you to do like enough to keep you busy for a year, I think. So
Got some sigils to work on. We're talking about book 3, some portraits.
we'll talk about book 3 later. We'll talk about that later. So, all right then, my lovelies. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, and I hope you all take care and do so a little bit better each day. Bye.
Bye.